Good morning, good afternoon, and good day, and welcome to the Parc'd podcast by Park Fem.
The ASMR episode.
It is episode CHELLE. Today it's episode 16 as we prepare for the Monza Grand Prix, the Italian Grand Prix. We have just been at the, Celeste has been at the ZANDVOOrt at ZANDVOOrt for the Dutch Grand Prix. Our resident ZANDVOOrt Marshall is here today. Do you want to know something really weird and really emotional, right? So this will be, I believe, if I recall correctly, our last podcast, last episode of like the Parc'd podcast before we hit our 2-year anniversary, right? And our first ever podcast for Park Fem 2 years ago was the Dutch Grand Prix and talking to Celeste about what it's like being a marshal at ZANDVOOrt.
Yes, I remember that.
What a cute way to end to, like, our second year. Second year.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
That's insane.
Wild, isn't it?
Crazy.
Like, in no offense towards you, Celeste, because you guys were
watch it.
very entertaining, but ZANDVOOrt was just very, very boring. I feel like this year, across across all series, just very boring.
The only good thing was Porsche Super Cup, but no one really watched that, so it's a bit of shit.
Larry won, so it was great.
Yeah, it was good.
Love Larry. So F1 Academy, we did for the first time since so Miami, Abby Pulling took pole in both races, and in Spain Abby Pulling took pole in both races, but in ZANDVOOrt this was the first time since her fast pole in Miami that she wasn't on pole for a race. It was the first time that Dorian Pan was on pole since Jeddah at the beginning of the season. So for anyone that doesn't know how F1 Academy's qualifications work, they just go around the track, they set times. Their fastest time they put out is the time they use to decide the order for race 1. And then their second fastest time is what they use to decide race 2. So Dorian Pan's fastest time put her P2, but Dorian Pan's second fastest time was faster than Abby Pulling's second fastest time. Complicated a bit, I know, but once you start to get your head around it, it's fine. So that meant Abby Pulling was on pole for race 1, and Diane was on pole for race 2. Bianca Bustamante crashed out in turn 3. She went into the wall. That was during qualifying, and that put her out of qualifying. That was a red flag. For 9 minutes after the clock, I believe it was, the red flag. They got going again. Did you have fun waving that red flag?
No.
No. The only time, so out of all the sessions that I watched and then saw Celeste on the screen, was obviously qualifying, because the pretty much the only red flag. Yeah. And when I tell you, so she came up on the screen and I screamed. I was like, "It's Celeste!" And Mum was like, "Where?" She was like, "Rewind the TV." So I
was like so short.
I was rewinding the TV and then paused it. She was like, "Oh my god, look, it's Celeste on the TV!" And when I tell you, this looked so miserable. I'll insert the video. But she looked so miserable. She was like...
To my defense, though, when I go in focus mode, I have like a sort of resting bitch face. So when I focus, I look like I was miserable because that red flag is a joke. But yeah, my face is just like that.
That happened with us as well, because my boyfriend was scrolling through looking at the TikToks and at the video of all the dancing marshals, and Alex was like, haha, I reckon Celeste is there. And I went, no, that is Celeste. that is Celeste.
I always find the best way to spot Celeste is you look for the white cap.
Yep.
And then once you find a white cap, you see if there is a brown ponytail coming out of like the hole in the back of it.
Who's that? Because I noticed, and then was like, oh, okay, so Celeste is definitely there.
With F1 it's very easy because I'm not allowed to wear any like merchandise related to any motorsport basically. So I always wear my white cap because that's the only like plain cap I have. So F1 it's always a white cap.
But then Stefano was wearing a white cap as well this year, wasn't he?
Yeah, pink, but like very, very light pink, so it probably looks white.
Stefano is Celeste's brother, by the way. He is also a track marshal, and Celeste's dad is also a track marshal.
Yes.
But every time I then saw a white hat, I was like, is that Celeste? Oh, no, Stefano. So I was like, no, I have to check for the ponytail every single time now to check which one it is out of the two.
Lucky Stefano cut his hair.
Yeah, could you imagine?
Otherwise it would be real difficult.
Which ponytail is it? But yeah, so red flag qualifying. That did mean, though, for Bianca, they could not get her car fixed in time for race 1 on the Saturday, so she had to withdraw from the race, aiming to be back for race 2. And then it got very, very wet.
And windy. It's like a storm.
Yeah, a lot of people on Twitter were very, very angry that they decided to not go ahead with race 1 on the Saturday, because they have wet tyres for a reason. I think we've learned enough times now that when a situation on track looks like it could cause potential danger, we do not race on the track.
When I'm telling you there was wind, literal like flag posts. If you've seen the arena or like the main grandstand, they had like flags of them. Half of them were gone. We had like a stage in front of us, and it had like this poster of F1 and lights and shit. Half of that was gone. Like the track was quite literally falling apart. So there's no way you can race in these conditions.
Yeah.
What people don't realise is that Zandvoort isn't like other tracks. It's right on the seafront.
Yeah.
And that then creates, and because of the dunes and the way that the crevices are, it creates like a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And we've had situations in I think it was W Series before, because that was it there where Abby Eaton broke her back? I want to say.
No, not in Zandvoort, I think.
Oh no, that was Kota.
Yeah.
No, that was my mistake. But obviously, we have had incidents at Zandvoort before with W Series. Obviously, not comparing the championships because we know that F1 Academy is very much run a lot better. But as we said, we learn the lessons a bit.
And it's also like people.
We know the lessons.
Yeah, people say like they have wet weather tires for a reason, but it's not just the race cars that is the problem. Like the medical helicopters and all the stuff around that has to be safe as well. Because imagine something very bad happens and then a medical helicopter can take off because it's too windy or too rainy. Like there is more than just the cars that go around. So
yeah, I think as well. So obviously, did any of you watch qualifying at all for it? No, watch race 1 for it. I know Celeste obviously wouldn't have. But so I was watching race 1 to like wait for it. This was on the Saturday because obviously it was showing it, and I'm pretty sure it was Maya Weg was in the car, and her like person on the radio comes on and goes, just to let you know, there is a tornado behind you. And people were still demanding that these girls just stick their wet tyres on and go racing around the track.
Yeah,
there was a mini wind tornado coming towards the track, and people were like, just race, it's fine.
The thing is that a lot of people, and this is what annoys me, is that a lot of, not just men, but a lot of people will say, oh, well, if the men can do it, they can do it too.
The men would not have done it.
The men wouldn't have been able to do it. Like, come on. Like,
none of them were going to be on track at that point.
No, and we have, luckily in the past, had people, speaking out even when it is Formula One, saying, like, this is not safe enough to race. And should it be the case that just because they're women, they don't get listened to for that? No, we're not going to risk drivers' lives just because you think they have a point to prove.
Literally. It was insane conditions, and it's a good job they didn't race. But that did mean, much to Celeste's disappointment, that race 1 was moved to Sunday morning, and it was set to finish just over 2 hours before race 2 was starting. Yes, Naomi?
So, I genuinely do not know the answer to this. So because Bianca Bustamante withdrew from race 1, even though it got moved, is she then able to race in race 1? Or no?
Yeah.
Really? That's good. That's good. I mean, it's good for her.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting that's
Yeah, I think if
kind of able to do that.
I think if they'd have completed like say a lap and then said no, I don't know whether they should be able to.
Yeah, that must have been a no.
But because it was then postponed to another day, she was reinstated back into the race, so she was able to compete. Not the best performance from her, but the car.
Not when your car's been in pieces.
Yeah, the car was literally in pieces. They did a fantastic job to get it up and running for the Sunday. He absolutely smashed that. But with F1 Academy, as any feeder series, they don't have the resources and the privileges that higher series do have. So like Formula 1 for their race weekends, but also like Formula E and WEC and everything like that. They don't have the full resources or the money or the funding to be able to, you know...
They can't just put a new one on all the things that are broken.
Yeah. So her car was obviously not going to be 100% fantastic. They cannot physically afford to bring all new car pieces to rebuild a whole secondary car over. So they're going to make do with what they got. But she was able to then race in race 1. She finished P14 in the end, so exactly where she started. She didn't finish last though, so positives. We did have a wildcard entry for this round as well. No one knows what the wildcard entry is in Formula 1 Academy. There are 15 drivers on the grid that are permanent drivers. It's 3 per team. And at its selected rounds, I believe, Prema will house a 4th car, and that is a wildcard car. So a female driver will get the opportunity to race in the car. The only qualifications you require for that, I believe you cannot have raced in Formula 1 Academy before. This has to be, you know, you've had no experience in Formula 1 Academy. And you have to race under the nationality of that country. So whether that's like you are born there, so you have a FIA license for that country, or you just are part of that nationality. So for example, Ariola Nobles is Brazilian Belgian. So if she wasn't racing in Formula 1 Academy and they had a race in Brazil and they also had a race in Belgium, she could race in either or, for example, because she has a license in both of those. So in Jeddah we had Rima, and in Miami we had Courtney Crone, and then in Spain we didn't have anybody, but in Zandvoort we had Nina Gaidman, who is a British F4 driver.
Yes, she's raced on Zandvoort before earlier this year when the DTM was here. Obviously, British F4 has the exact same cars as F1 Academy, and then Zandvoort being the exact same track, I think it was very fun for her to do this round of F1 Academy. Yeah,
and she absolutely nailed it. She qualified P6 for both races.
Wow.
And in race 1, she finished P4. So in her...
I'm so happy for her.
Yeah, so in her debut for F1 Academy, her first ever race in F1 Academy, she finished just shy of the podium. And
which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's also the first F1 Academy wildcard that got points.
Yeah, correct. Rima finished P11 and retired, and Courtney finished P14 and P11.
Yes, so very good.
It was very good. She definitely made a name for herself across that weekend.
Was she nominated for the Autosport Award? Just wondering.
No, because I'm pretty sure you have to be British for it, don't you? I think.
Oh yeah, no, because I was thinking British F4, but yeah.
I think you got to be British or part of the British Empire. So that's why.
No, because Louis Sharp was born in Nottingham.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I did not know this until this came out.
Because I was sat there, I was like, no, I'm saying British, but I'm pretty sure there's like either an Aussie or a New Zealander.
Yeah, no,
somewhere.
Louis Sharp from New Zealand, who races under the New Zealand flag, was raised in Christchurch under that's what I know, I think. Apparently he was born in Nottingham. I was not aware of this.
I'm Googling.
I mean, maybe it is because of the British Empire. On Wikipedia it does say Christchurch, but I've seen the Autosport reply to it and say, oh, he's born in Nottingham, which was a big shock to me, considering I literally work in that series. No idea.
Literally a British news outlet that's put out Louis Sharp EP16, originally from Nottinghamshire, clinches Formula 4 Championship title at Brands Hatch with Rodin Car's team, following in footsteps of McLaren Formula 1 driver Lando Norris. This is revolutionary.
I cannot believe this.
Sorry.
The only reason that I knew that was because last season at Brands Hatch, when he won the championship, all you heard was so-and-so. Yeah, it's from Nottingham. So-and-so. Yeah, it's from Nottingham. And I was like, do you think he might be
I the fact that it not like it not been mentioned all season in GP3, but it hasn't been.
Yeah.
And so it was like when I saw it, I was like,
you're just going to throw
what?
it out. You're going to be like, guys, by the way, did you know?
Just saying, guys. But,
John is gonna confiscate. John's gonna confiscate your mic rights.
Yeah,
because you'll be like, "Oh, let's go speak to Louis Sharp from Nottingham," and John's gonna be like, "No,
that's what a guy who's like fully
no, Naomi, no more. If I hear it one more time." Because you'll curse him like me and Daniele cursed Noel Leon. So when I made the amazing discovery that Noel Leon's name is the same forwards as it is backwards, it's palindrome, man, I mentioned it to my friend Daniele, and he was doing commentary for that race, like Noel Leon's next race. So he proceeds to mention the fact that Noel Leon is the palindrome man, and then Noel Leon had his worst result of the entire season. This man was on like win, and then
I guess we're just gonna need to test this theory. I'm gonna have to bring it up to the guys and just see whether this works.
But yeah, so race one. Anyway, back to F1 Academy race one. Yes, so off the start, Abby Pilling obviously got a great start. Dorian Pan also got a great start. She did have Moberg on her tail quite rapidly. Moberg had a phenomenal weekend. And apparently, so I've watched the video of this back and I don't see it, but obviously the FIA have more resources than just, eyeballs on this situation. But apparently Dorian Pan jumped the start.
How else do they watch it though?
Well,
with eyeballs?
No, I meant more the fact they have sensors and data that they can look at. I can just look with my eyes, so they have more than just that. But they still look at the data
with their eyeballs.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean.
I'm joking.
You know what I mean. I don't personally see her jump the start, okay? I have seen F1 drivers jump the start more than Dorian Pan has, and they have never been penalised for it. Yes.
Sorry, because I remember there was I can't remember whether it was in Formula 1 or it was something that's happened in one of the GB4 weekends, is that one of the drivers, if it was Formula 1, I think it was Valtteri Bottas, one of the drivers had a reaction that was deemed a jump start, but it was debatable because the lights went out. But they said that his reaction was so quick that it wasn't humanly possible.
Bottas. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I swear it was Bottas.
I remember the press conference of Sebastian Vettel going, that's
Yeah. I remember. And that came off on my Instagram the other day.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
That not like they're able to do that, but in my opinion, I would say, well, that's the point. They're meant to be able to time it so perfectly. Yeah. But I mean, technically, if it's not humanly possible, it's not humanly possible.
But I'm pretty sure in the video you can see Abby Pulling move at the exact same that Dorian Pan does. So I don't understand how it's considered a jump start. But obviously the FIA deemed it a jump start, and thus she got a 5-second time penalty. And that demoted her down to P5 by the end of the race. So Nina Gademan technically crossed the line in 5th, and then obviously got bumped up to 4th. but that did mean that Nerea Marti finished P2 for a second time this season. Obviously, Maivik then got her podium in P3. Wow, so then nothing really else happened in race 1.
No.
I think the girls were too cautious because more happened in race 2 than race 1.
Yeah.
Maybe not too cautious, but...
Especially F1 Academy not having, like, any help or, like, DRS or, like, push to pass or whatever you want to call it. And ZANDVOORT being so incredibly difficult to overtake. I just don't think there was anything they could really do without risking the car for, like, the second race.
Yeah. I feel like if they just pushed... Are you okay?
There's someone shouting in the street.
Oh,
I thought it was Alex because my phone flashed up saying Alex had messaged.
Oh my god, can you hear it?
No. Race 2 was, I'd say, slightly more entertaining. Like I said, I feel like ZANDVOORT this weekend just produced very, very boring races. But Diane Parr started on pole position. She also took the fastest lap and went on to win the race. That's the first time she's actually won the race, got pole position and fastest lap. Well, technically she did it in Jeddah race 2, but the penalty for taking the checkered flag twice kind of meant that she didn't win the race. And race 2 at ZANDVOORT was actually Abby Pulling's worst race of the entire season, her worst finish of the entire season. She started P2 behind Diane Parr, and off the line Maivik caught her and overtook, and then Abby settled into P3 and she finished in P3, which, having your worst result of the season be P3 is not a bad thing at all in the slightest.
I think the thing is that makes the difference with Abby is that she's getting active experience outside of F1 Academy during the same season. And this is not a bad thing. This is what all of them should be doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, if they're able to, the issue obviously is money. But I think the fact that Abby's able to get that is great for her racing experience.
Yes.
I think that's what's really making the difference for her.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm really, really glad to see Diane Parr back winning. And just on the podium in general, because she almost missed out in Barcelona on even racing.
She's had a tough season.
Yeah, I feel like fracturing her ribs mid-season, missing out on Freca, missing out on Le Mans, and just being back, healed for Barcelona. Like, that's a whole section of your season just, like, gone. And so you kind of, need these to be, need these opportunities and stuff to help, grow your presence. Like, the thing for F1 Academy, a lot of people have been talking quite negatively on F1 Academy, saying they don't understand the point in it, put these girls up against guys. Like, most of these girls race against guys outside of F1 Academy. The point of F1 Academy isn't to shelter the girls from racing against the guys. And it's not built to put a wall between turning motorsport from unisex to gendered. Like, motorsport's always been unisex. F1 Academy is built to benefit the girls, not to, negatively reflect on them and create poor experiences from them. When it comes to F1 Academy, half of their season is paid off. They do not need the extreme amount of funding you would need to race in other series. It also allows them to have sponsors, so every single driver has their own individual sponsor. 10 of those are F1 teams, and the remaining 5 are other teams. Like, you've got Puma, you've got Tommy Hilfiger, you've got Charlotte Tilbury. Like, these are all big named brands. And the creation of F1 Academy was built to give these girls track time, to give them a platform, and to get their names out there.
Yeah.
It wasn't ever to hinder, it was always to promote them.
That's also why in F1 Academy you can only do 2 seasons, because it's not like a championship as in, let's see how many championships I can win. That's not the point of F1 Academy. It's just to give
Which I think was the issue with W Series.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
F1 Academy is just meant as a starting platform. Everyone says, well, the cars are too slow. The cars are Formula 4 cars, they are on par with other Formula 4 cars. They are not to
meant
be on par
like that.
with Formula 3. It goes, the stepping stones go Formula 4, Formula 3.5, Formula 3, Formula 2, and then whichever paid racing you go into, whether that's Formula 1, Formula E, WEC, IndyCar, whatever, like whatever your route is. For anyone who doesn't know what Formula 3.5 is, there's like a wild mix of different things.
Trek.
You got all of the
Trek,
Formula regional
GB3, kind of
they're not as quick.
F1 Academy.
Yeah, they're not as quick as Formula 3 cars, but they're not as slow as Formula 4 cars. They're kind of like a middle tier, which is why when you win the F1 Academy Championship, you get a free seat into FRECA. And it's a paid seat for them, so that they don't have to pay out for this seat, because it's so difficult for women racing in motorsports, because sponsors are scared to put their name and branding on a woman in motorsport, because it's not always been widely accepted. And yes, there's been women in Formula 1 before, there are women in other sports, like other motorsports, but it's not frequent. It's not something that's constantly happening. We haven't seen a woman in Formula 1 in years. And that's because women do not get the same privileges as men do when it comes to racing in motorsport. And F1 Academy is there to give the girls track time, to give them a platform to promote themselves, to get their names out there so that they can pick up sponsors, they can pick up teams. All of the teams in F1 Academy are teams that are in Formula 3 and Formula 2. And a bunch of these teams are also in FRECA, in GB3, so that they can get comfortable and get familiar with these feeder series teams, so that these teams can see how they perform, how they work in a team, to bring them up with them through the different series. And that's what it was built for. And people are just constantly like, oh my god, it's hindering these girls so much. Like, no, it's not. Your negative attitude is hindering you.
Yeah.
None of this is hindering
understanding the point of this.
You've got, it's an all-female sport. Race against the men. They do. There was 9 women racing in British F4 the other week. 8 women? 9 women?
Hang on, because that's just what I'm doing the research on, because I've just gone through from 2015, which is when British F4 officially became a championship, and it's disgusting. So let me just get this up. So hang on.
I'll continue.
Yeah, carry on.
Even the interesting thing, obviously we know Dorian Pan as a driver who's up there with in F1 Academy, but as we said, she's the one that's also, I mentioned obviously about Abby getting experience outside of F1 Academy, and Dorian is also doing it in FRECA. She's also doing it in WEC, and I think that's like the whole aim of F1 Academy, is that they're able to do some racing alongside that to help build the racecraft. Because I think not the issue with F1 Academy, but the issue with a lot of the feeder series that do follow the Formula 1 circus is that there are huge gaps in the calendar. We've seen it a lot with Formula 3 this season, is that they had a huge break, and then there's 3 races in 3 weeks. And it's not, I wouldn't call it an issue necessarily, but it's one thing for me that I'm not a big fan of in that, and I don't think that helps a driver's skills build. Not like they're going to be out of the car for that long, because I'm sure they will do karting, they will do sim work, but when you work that much towards it, and then you have however long off, it's difficult to keep in that kind of routine of things, especially building those skills. Do you have the stat for us, Katie?
Yeah. So this is just for British F4, but 2015 there were 2 women on the grid, Jess Hawkins and Jodie Hemming. 2016 was 3, so that's the most until 2024 season. The most women on the grid were 3. 2017 was 1, Alexandra Monhaupt Quintana, who's Mexican. 2018 there was no women on the grid. 2019 was Abby Monroe, might be Monroe actually, I think I missed the N, Monroe, and Rima Jafali. 2020 was Rima Jafali and Abby Pullen. 2021 Abby Pullen was the only woman on the grid. 2022 and 2023, there were no women on the grid. And in 2024, there's Carrie Schreiner, Nina Gaiman, Chloe Chong, Ella Lloyd, Abby Pullen, Bianca Bustamante, Jess Edgar, and Aurelia Noble.
So I think
up until 2024, the most in a season was 3.
Yeah.
The majority were 2, and then 2022 and 2023, when it was like the start of pushing forward like W Series and all of this stuff, and there were no women on the grid. I started watching British F4. The first year that I went was when Abby was the 2021 season, and that was like the October one. And then going from having one girl on the grid, and I was like, yeah, that's great. Like, I'll always root for a girl on the grid, because like it's just, you gotta root for the girl when you're a girl. And
support the girls.
And then for 2022 and 2023, having no one.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think it's probably been similar with like GB4 and stuff, because I mean obviously it's still a new championship after breaking away, but it's been really interesting. Obviously we've got Alicia Kalmovsky in GB4 this year, who is doing an amazing job. She's third in the championship at the moment. We've got Chloe Grant as well, who's been doing. She's had a difficult year. She's been having a lot of trouble. I think she's been learning a lot from it as well. Obviously, we've seen Ava Dobson, who came in the last weekend over from America, and she was very exciting to see, because she's really young, coming over from America. But even that stat tells me a lot from how much experience helps you, because the name we heard a lot there with Katie's stat was Abby Pulling.
Yeah.
She's getting that experience, and that is what is helping her, and that's what every woman should be able to get.
well, I know it's going very off tangent, but it's still to do with women in motorsport. But I just think it's funny how, like, the British F4 wasn't technically an FIA recognised race. Like, the FIA didn't put their name to the race until, I'm pretty sure, it was either the start of 2022 or the end of 2022, so it came into effect for the 2023 season.
It was the 2022 season, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And obviously 2022, 2023, there was no women. But I just think it's funny how, like, there was 4 or 5 seasons before that where I had, like, a few women. And then there was a gap. And now all of a sudden there's loads of girls in there. And it's like...
and I think because obviously GB4 is the breakaway, so that's run by the BDRC, supported I think it is, and it's run by MSV. The top female, I think it's in GB4, pretty sure it's GB4, gets £25,000 towards a F1 Academy seat for the following season. And I think, not like that's the best thing in the world, but I think that shows how much the BDRC are really trying to help out and push people up, especially considering it's usually it would be a British female driver. It's really trying to help out. That Jonathan Palmer has given a lot of support towards women in motorsport, and yeah, I'm really excited to see. I really hope, especially with Alicia, I think she can really go far. She's nominated for the Autosport BDRC Rising Stars Young Drivers, whatever it is. What is it? I can't remember. Don't fire me, please. And I think there's a lot there, as well as with Abby Pulling. I'm looking forward. I hope the future of female in motorsport is bright. I really do.
But that 25,000 is really, really good, because I'm pretty sure this might be incorrect, because I'm going back in my memory for this, and anyone that knows me knows my memory's pretty bad. I'm pretty sure F1 Academy puts 100,000 per driver for their series, so having an additional 25,000 would obviously really, really benefit a driver in F1 Academy. Obviously with F1 Academy as well, there's going to be so many open seats for next season.
Yes.
Because the only drivers that can return are Diane Pan, Chloe Chambers, Leah Block.
I hope to see more from Leah Block.
Who else was
Big
there?
fan.
Maya Veg, and I think Ariella Nobles, I believe, is the other one. Yes. So 5. There's only 5 out of the 15 drivers, I believe, that are returning. That can return next season. Abby Pulling must leave after the end of the year. So must Noria Marti, Hamda, and Amna Alkavesi, Bianca Bustamante, Jess Edgar, Carrie Schreiner, Tina Hausman, Lola Lovenfoss, Emily De Hoos. Like, they all have to go after the season because
It's kind of
they've
crazy
done
to
2
me.
years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very
2 years
draining
is quite
season.
short,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I feel bad for these girls.
yeah, I feel bad.
Only because like Darian Pan, Chloe Chambers, like Maya Veg, Ariella Nobles, Leah Block, they've all entered Formula One Academy this year when it's on the F1 bill, Formula One backed, everyone has to have a big sponsor.
Yeah.
Whereas last season, all the other girls that were there are off the F1 bill. It wasn't on the F1 bill. There was no F1 team sponsorships. There was no big
on
name
TV.
brand sponsorships, not on TV. So they've essentially got
big
1
yeah.
year of what F1 Academy, was aiming to do,
Yeah.
while all these other girls will get 2 years of it. So they've essentially got only 1 year of F1 Academy compared to like the others that will get 2. But it does make sense, 2 years. I see it as like a way of, they get a year to settle with the car and then a year to show their worth.
Compete.
Like properly compete. Because some drivers do just need time to settle before they're, comfortable in the car. And that's okay. Every person is different. And that doesn't change just because you're a racing driver. But I do feel bad for them because they just didn't get the same experience last year as they do this year. But I'm pretty sure they also get an insane amount of testing time as well in F1 Academy, trying different tracks, doing different
Yeah, they
things.
do.
So
They do.
it's a good series, and I feel
brilliant.
like people need to learn how to use Google more.
Or their brains, just in general.
Yeah, like we will happily do a whole like video, TikTok article about why F1 Academy is good for women in motorsport and why it's not
What?
a negative.
Yeah.
Like we can work on that for the new season.
And we would all, or at least I would honestly say, in the first season of F1 Academy, I wasn't worried, but no, technically I was quite worried it wasn't getting broadcasted, it wasn't being supported, and I was like, is this going to be another W series?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I did not deem that a success, and I was worried, and I was hesitant. But this year, it's seen F1 Academy do what F1 Academy is meant to do.
Yeah, and I love the fact that F1 Academy, you can watch it on Sky Sports, you can watch it on all of the broadcasting, but you can also go watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's so important.
And that just means that it can reach a wider outreach of people. Like, more people can watch it because it's so easily accessible to watch. And me and Celeste, we got to watch 2.5 Formula One Academy races last year. I say the half was because we could not get in and parked at Monza in enough time. We'd barely left with enough time anyway, and that wasn't either of our faults. I'd like to point out it was the men's faults, okay? My God, are they a pain in the ass to get out of the house on time. But then we couldn't get parked up properly. So, and any other series, you would just be able to whip it up on your phone to watch it while going. I had to pull up the live timings to figure out what the hell was going on. And even when we were sat at the track, you could not watch it on the screen to see what was going on. You just had to wait for the cars to come around and then figure out where the hell each car was on track. And then you just had an Italian commentator explaining what's going on. And when you don't speak Italian, it makes it very difficult to figure out what's going on. And Celeste is going, my Italian isn't as good to be able to tell you what's happening on this on the thing. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And it was even things like that where we were like, the racing that we're able to see and watch just like visually on track was phenomenal. It was great. There was lots and lots of overtakes. I have no clue what's gone downhill on that fort, because there was constant overtakes last season. I think the car setup is just very different this year. But we were always like, I just wish you could be able to see it on the screen as well, to see what's going on in other parts of the track, and you just couldn't. But we both said at the end of Monza, F1 Academy was great, and we really, really hope to see that on screens. And we were both really, really excited for COTA that year, because it was on the F1 build for the first time. Yeah. And that meant we'd be able to watch it. And the fact that it's now on TV and you can watch it all the time is just great. And I love that. And I love being able to watch it. What are you giggling at?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've had it in my mind for the last like 5 minutes, but because you're wearing a black jumper, it looks like you're a floating fish.
I actually came dressed prepared today. I will get onto that in a second. Let me just finish rounding up F1 Academy. Not much else to talk about on it, because not a lot happened in race 2.
Oh, I know, and I now know what you're wearing.
Yeah. F1 Academy, like we said, Nina Gademan had a phenomenal race 1. She had a phenomenal race 2 as well, until she got hit with a 10-second time penalty for crashing into Aurelia Nobles. Was it Aurelia
Which
Nobles?
I think was a very harsh penalty. Like,
no, it wasn't. It was just... No, it was Aurelia Nobles. I was correct.
I didn't see the replays, but it happened in front of my eyes. But I think it was a bit of a harsh penalty.
10 seconds definitely harsh. Essentially what happened was, they're coming up like this. So this hand here is Nina Gademan. This hand here is Aurelia Nobles. So they're coming to go around like this, right? And essentially Nina got ahead and squeezed Aurelia, and their tyres went bink. And Aurelia Nobles went into the gravel, recovered the car, and then drove off down the road behind her.
Yeah.
Didn't lose a position, I'm pretty sure.
It's wheel-to-wheel racing.
Yep.
It's, yeah, basically.
Noted for causing a collision, and 10-second penalty, dropped her down to P10 at the end, but still 13 points she walked away with. That is more points than 4 of the current drivers on the grid so far. So, great day for her. Great weekend for her. Diane Pan, like we said, won. Joined on the podium by Maya Veg for a second time in ZANDVOORT, and Abby Pling was P3. Hamda Al-Khabaisi had a much better race 2 to race 1. She finished P4. Aurelia Nobles, despite the little blink, she finished P5. And yeah, I think that's all that's like majorly important. Chloe Chambers didn't have a great day. She finished P12. Yeah, that was pretty much the end for ZANDVOORT. Championship, Abby Pulling is still pulling away on 190 points. Diane Pan is at 119 points currently as well. So quite a large margin still, with 6 races left to go in the season. We head to Asia for the last stint of Formula 1 Academy. We've got Singapore, Qatar and Abu Dhabi. So as you can tell, lots of gaps in that calendar, because we've got Singapore in September,
and then it's 3
Qatar
months.
is in November, I believe, and then Abu Dhabi's in December.
It's the 29th.
That's my exact point.
Yeah, it's 3 months between Singapore and Qatar, basically.
Is Qatar December?
Yeah, well, it's the 29th to the 1st. So it starts in November, ends in December.
Like,
And Singapore's the 20th, so it's like, well, it's 2 months and 3 weeks.
I do give it to F1 Academy though that they do have them sim testing and working quite hard behind the scenes as well, at least. And they'll probably chuck a test in somewhere if they have like 3 weekends.
It's a bit difficult watching it having such a big break, because then it'll be like, you'll get round to round 6 and it'll be like, well, who's where, what happened last time? Like, I understand that, like, they can only do a certain amount of races, but if you're only going to do a certain amount of races, would you not sort of compact them a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that...
Have like one a month even. That's still...
Like, the FIA prioritize F2 and F3 in that sense, because now obviously that's like F1 Academy is great, that's on the F1 build, which I think it should stay like that. But you see it in F3 as well. It has big gaps. F2 gets better, but I feel like F1 Academy is still the last priority on that.
But we
But we've
begged for
had
ages
F3.
for F3 Academy. No, F3 Academy. We begged for ages for F3 to be closer and have less breaks, and they finally given us that because we are ending Formula 3 this weekend. Like, Formula 3 is done by September, essentially. Well, finishes on September 1st. But we used to have to wait until November for F3 to end, and we'd have like a 3-month long break. And we were like, this is diabolical. This is not fair on these drivers. Like, fix it. And the FI was like, okay, I'm really sorry, we're fixing it, and it's been resolved. But I feel like, because I get the reason why F1 Academy is quite spaced out, mainly because they essentially said with F1 Academy, because their goal is to help these girls, that they try to give them experience at multiple different tracks and different styles of tracks. So they can have like a widened thing. But there is surely a better way to do this than all these ridiculously long breaks in between. So, and also they kind of defeated the point because the 2 European races we have this season for F1 Academy are 2 from last season of F1 Academy. They went to ZANDVOORT last season. They went to the Circuit de Catalunya. So it's like...
I guess then the problem is because Spa is F2, F3, Monza is F2, F3. I don't think it's just... I get what you're saying, and I think they can definitely do
But the thing
things
is, though,
differently.
is we had the Circuit de Catalunya was F1, F2, F3, and F1 Academy. So it's not as if it's like impossible. It's just the Porsche Carrera Cups, I think, is also a big issue in this.
There's just too much going on.
I'm hoping they figure it out a bit better for next season. Obviously, it's their first season in the F1 build, so maybe we should give them a chance. But
there's still improvements to make.
However, like I did say, I am dressed appropriately for... hang on, I need to flash myself. I dressed appropriately for this episode.
Oh. There it is.
My little fucking stat of the weekend, like, I don't, we can say it as well, but there's 4 race weekends this season that have had no retirements.
This was one of them.
ZANDVOORT was one of them.
Yep. Don't worry, I can keep that in exactly where it is. It's F1 time. Woo! Okay, this the week leading up to ZANDVOORT and the week following ZANDVOORT has been entertaining. Not on track, but off track, because first and foremost, Pierre Gasly finally has a teammate.
I'm happy about this one.
It's some random, I think he's from New Zealand, maybe. Someone said he might have a famous dad, but I don't know, I never really
I've been
heard
waiting my whole life for this.
So,
My whole life.
the wonderful Jack Doohan has finally been given his opportunity in Formula 1 as he joins Alpine alongside Pierre Gasly. If you don't know who Jack Doohan is, get to know. He is an incredible driver. He has great racecraft, and he's just a fantastic little driver. He was in F2. He took a year out, I believe. This year was just a year out. And that was just due to him not really having anywhere to go. He's an Alpine reserve driver, and here he is now getting his F1 debut officially.
I think what is great about Jack Doohan, he has brilliant racecraft, and in Formula 2 and Formula 3 the issue is that not everybody else is respectful around him. But I think if you've been watching Formula 2 and Formula 3 while he's been racing in it, you can tell how good of a talent he is. And I think it's a shame he didn't get a seat last year. And I was thinking, okay, if you can't get enough F1 seat, it's fine. There are other options. So I was really personally pushing for him to get a seat in WEC or something else. I mean, he's never had an affiliation with Formula E, not really with IndyCar either, but, you know, Alpine have a WEC team. There's definitely an option there. So I was really pushing for something like that, as I was when Oscar Piastri took his year out. I think it's important just to get at least some experience.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with this now. I'm happy now. I think it's really deserved. I think he's one of the type of people that just, I mean, I'm going to be really biased about this, to be fully honest. Like, he just deserves it, I think. He's worked really hard. And people are like, oh yeah, but his dad, yeah, but not like he's never had that support from his dad, because of course he has. But it's different worlds. MotoGP is so extremely different.
Is that he's got the support of his dad. Obviously, his dad was friends with Michael.
Yeah.
Of him and that lot. But his dad was 2 wheels, not 4.
It's a completely different world.
Yeah.
Like if he was going into the 2 wheel like thingy, and you got a seat, you sit there and go, oh, is it because it's Mick Doohan's son? Like you'd question that anyway. Like you'd question it with like other drivers. I know Mick Schumacher got it when he joined F1. It was like, oh, like it's because of his dad, and it's like, well, no, they've been brought up around that world, so they're going to have experience from when they were dinky tiny toddlers. Like he could probably drive a go-kart before he could even walk, let's be honest.
Well, the exact reason that he got in, I like my weird motorsport knowledge. Here it's where it's comes out. The exact reason he was karting is because Jack's mum never wanted him to have a motorbike for the exact reason that Mick was riding. And so Michael got him a kart. They lived around the same area as where Michael lived, and they karted on Michael's track that he built for Mick and Gina. And they karted around it together. And Mick is named Mick for a reason, guys. He is after Mick Doohan. And it's just like, he got given the kart by Michael, and I think it's just a really sweet, full circle moment. And I want Mick back in F1 just so we can have the little 2 childhood friends, like, back together.
Is it too early for him to have announced his number?
So he tested with 61 on the car, 62 on his helmet. I'm pretty sure he wanted 33 before Max had it.
I mean, Max did say he's not doing another hundreds of GPs, so he might retire.
But now, obviously, Max is number 1 for now, obviously.
Yeah.
I wonder if he could take it.
No, because I think Max's number is still 33. It's still, for like 5 years, it's still Max's.
Oh.
Tires.
So he definitely couldn't have it. Yeah, so the car had 61, whereas his helmet had 62 on it, which tells you everything about Alpine. But yeah, no, I don't. They haven't announced his number yet. Yeah, I think what I'm wondering is whether the 61 or the 62, whichever. I know each team are given testing numbers for when they do practice. Yeah. So I don't know whether maybe that's their practice number and then they can't take that. I don't know.
So, talking of new F1 drivers, we have a new F1 driver in 2024.
And he's racing number 43. There you go. I get to say it now.
Yeah, apart from the fact he's literally the first Alpine/Renault Junior Academy graduate to the Alpine Formula One team since Romain Grosjean.
Actually means that he is the first Alpine Academy driver to first team driver, because Alpine to Alpine. Yes. Because he'll be the third graduate from the Alpine Academy to Formula One, but the first to the Alpine team, because Zhou Guanyu and Oscar Piastri both graduated to F1.
I mean, Oscar almost did it. He just did
against his will.
Yeah.
But
Alpine really went, you're ours. Yeah. You don't get a say in it.
So Naomi has to...
He's everywhere.
Naomi has to wait.
Maybe he's going to be world champion.
Okay.
Sorry.
Naomi has to wait until 2025 for her driver to make it to F1. Mine is coming at the end of this fucking week. Sorry.
I'm joking. No, I'm joking, obviously.
But
I like Colapinto, okay?
I love Colapinto, okay? So, we should probably discuss the FP3 incident first before discussing Colapinto. So
Bad crash, mind.
the only thing I watched from F1 at Zandvoort was the race. I did see the crash from Logan in FP3. And I think that probably was the last straw.
I think the issue is that it clearly was his error. Because I rewatched it, and you can literally, like, his wheels, he's basically on the grass. And in the wet, everyone knows you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's just a lot of money for Williams.
Yeah, I think I saw a thing, it was like 1.7 million or something like that. Repair damages.
And for a team with such low budget, it's
a lot of money.
And then on top of that, obviously, they have the cost cap. There's only so much they can do with these incidents constantly happening. Like, you'll see in a video coming up soon, Williams have had the most retirements in races. That's without qualifying and free practice crashes as well. Like, if Red Bull are saying that they could struggle to bring upgrades because of budget, then Williams are in an even worse position. I don't think I understand why Williams have now sacked Logan Sargent. I personally don't like it when teams sack drivers mid-season. I can understand it from like a business side of things. Everyone's saying obviously that, like, why would you bring an inexperienced rookie who's doing shit in F2 into F1? You are wrong, by the way. He's not doing poorly in F2. First of all, he is in, 5th or 6th, I believe, currently in the F2 Championship in his rookie year, which is great in an MP for a start. Like, that's not saying MP is a bad team, but MP aren't, like, the top team in F2. And especially when I think at this point in the stage, Logan Sargent was in the same, if not similar, position in F2. And if you've ever seen Franco Colapinto race, this is how I know people haven't watched Franco Colapinto race ever before in their lives, for making the kind of comments saying that he's obviously going to crash out, he's going to crash out, he's going to crash out, he's going to do more damage than Logan Sargent's done. I can tell they've just never seen Franco Colapinto race. He has phenomenal racecraft. He is an insanely talented driver. And I think he's going to do well in the Williams. Do I think he's going to score points? No. But that's because the Williams can barely score points anyway as it is. Alex Albon scored points twice in the whole season.
I also think the Williams is a car you need to get used to, and you need to take your time with that car to get the maximum out of it. So
yeah, and everyone also saying, why would Franco Colapinto go and do 9 races in F1 because he'll have nowhere to go next year? He literally has Formula 2 that he'll just go back to, and him having F1 experience under his belt is like more profitable to F2 teams.
Do you know one of the comments that I've seen that not like made me angry, but I saw it and I was like, hold on, that is without so much context, is that someone was like, oh, he's just gonna do a Jack Aitken. Hold on. Jack went in for one race in a tricky track in a horrible setup car. Yes, he spun. Yes, he crashed. But he went in for one race. He had like no prior practice. He knew on like the Friday that was happening.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I'm now going on a rant about Jack Aitken, but I think it's a valid rant.
Yep. But I just think people need to stop going onto Google, searching a driver's name, looking at the results, and going, well, they're a bad driver, so they're going to do worse than the driver they're replacing. Because that is so incorrect. Your wheel knowledge is on the floor, and you should really consider doing research before making your comments. Literally when I went to go let the dog out there and make myself a tea, I opened up Twitter and someone was like, Franco Colapinto is a much worse driver than Logan Sargent. He is going to crash every single race and cause them more damage, because why would you want a terrible rookie to replace an experienced F1 driver? And it's like, terrible rookie why and terrible rookie how?
Because you also just cannot know how they're going to do until they
they're in the
race.
car. Yeah.
Exactly.
He did his first FP1 session in Silverstone. He did great. It's not as if he's never been in an F1 car before. He's been in an F1 car before. And people are like, well, why would they put Franco in? Why wouldn't they put Franco in? They're bringing someone from their driver academy.
Yeah, so he's the next
F1.
best option.
Yeah. And they're like, why would you not put Mick in it? Mick has prior commitments. Mick is quite literally racing this weekend. You can't just tell somebody, hey, you need to pack up your prior commitments and get in. Because what benefit is it to Mick Schumacher to drop his full-time paid job to come and mill around in an F1 car for 9 races when he's not going to be able to get a seat next season because there's nothing open for him? He's then got to trail back to his full-time job and go, hey, really sorry I abandoned on you last minute, but please sign me again next season. Because it just doesn't work like that. You cannot just drop your full-time commitments. Things in like F2, for example, you are paying to be there. Franco Colapinto has paid his seat time in F2. If he then wants to go do F1, MP will just find someone to cover, which they have. They've got a driver. They're bringing a driver up from F3, trialing them in the F2 car, and then, you know, see how that goes. And if he fits, bring him in for a full season next year. That doesn't affect.
But also, this happens a lot with Formula 2.
Yeah.
Is that people, usually it's obviously the fact that people cannot afford to then race the next season, race the next few races or whatever, but it happens a lot with chop and changing seats. So in Formula 2, it's not going to make that much of a difference, whereas in WEC, it will.
Yeah, and it's in the case of like Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson would have to sever every single tie with Red Bull Racing to be able to race in the Williams seat for 9 races. What benefit does that give to Liam Lawson, who is wanting the V-Carb seat for next year? He will not be getting that V-Carb seat next year if he does 9 races in the Williams, because he must sever all ties from Red Bull to go to Williams. If he severs the ties, goes to Williams, Red Bull are not going to let him back. He is not going to be considered to go into the V-Carb. That is never going to be an option, and he's lost his only potential F1 full-time seat. Because Williams have their full lineup for next season, so they need a driver that's willing to hop in, do 9 races, get some F1 experience under their belt, and will not be expecting to be put into the seat the following season. Because Franco Colapinto will easily be going into this knowing the F1 seat is not for me next season in the Williams. Maybe if I do really, really well, then they will consider me if Carlos were to leave or Alex were to leave. And he can just go straight back to F2 next year. Like, why would you not take the opportunity to do 9 races in F1, knowing that you can just go straight back to F2 next year? Mick does not have that privilege. Liam does not have that privilege. Why would you not take it on your own?
And I think the only other option, not the only other option, because I'm sure there were obviously more options, is like a Stoffel or a Fred.
But then Stoff is also in the same.
They would also
position as
have to have dropped their prior commitments.
Yeah.
You can't just expect somebody that's got a full-time contract signed somewhere to be able to just drop it. Full-time drivers do not have that privilege. Feeder series drivers do. And that's one thing people need to come to terms with. Yeah, it's obviously a risky move from Williams to put Franco Colapinto, who has never raced in Formula 1, in position of a driver they've had for a year and a half. Yeah, it's a risky move.
That's the whole point of rookies.
But firsthand, do not judge Franco Colapinto on how well he'll do this season just by looking at his results on his Wikipedia.
Yeah, and even with Formula 2, it's hit or miss whether you have a good first year or not. Because some drivers can just adapt and get into it straight away, say with your Oscar Piastris. Not every driver can do that. Not every driver is just that type of driver. And even from a lot of the previous feeder series drivers, talking from, say, Callum Ilott or Marcus Armstrong, they find the Formula 2 cars like nothing like the Formula 1 cars nowadays, because they don't have power steering, they don't have a lot of the things that Formula 1 cars have. They say it's more like IndyCar, which is, you know, another reason why that's opening up a lot more options in Europe now. So to be honest, it might be good to not be extremely familiarized with the Formula 1 car. You know, you can start a Formula 1 car by yourself. You can't do that in Formula 2.
But F1 itself, very boring. We've had much more entertainment in the week prior and the week following. ZANDVOORT? I don't know what happened in qualifying. Any of you know what happened in qualifying?
I did watch qualifying.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh my god, what happened? Anything interesting? Lando Norris put it on pole.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton and Carlos
Lewis didn't do a
Sainz.
great job.
Yeah, Lewis and Carlos didn't make it to Q3.
Yep.
Kind of depressing. Anything to note trackside, Celeste?
Not really.
Yeah, it was kind of just like
Cars go
they kind
very.
of just
They just go around to their
Cars
thing.
go very fast.
cars go
They go
fast and sometimes slow, and sometimes they hit the wall,
And sometimes they go in corners.
Oh yeah, I do need to speak
and
to you
sometimes they lose their seats.
for ruining my Tech Pro, because I think that was a bit rude. But
It was just that message of, yeah, thanks guys, you ruined my Tech Pro.
yeah, we had to replace the
Ruining my ice cream.
The race, Pierre Gasly got a point. Got 2 points.
It was just as boring.
Sorry.
We got a Charles Leclerc
Nine.
podium.
He got 2 points.
Uh,
No, just only got 2.
yeah, the race was
I'm
very
now cheering
boring.
on Alpine. Please get better.
We did see a miracle happening, so I mean,
We witnessed the predictable of Lando Norris. 5 lights went out. 5 lights out. Lando Norris off the line. Immediately lost P1 into turn 1, which is quite a regular occurrence. However, he regained his track position and drove a phenomenal race and won by 22 seconds.
yeah, fucking mental.
Alex.
Why?
Sorry, I got a bit ahead of myself there. Just carry on talking, and then when we get to it, then I'll be able to.
What were you getting to?
I'm so excited for Monza. My brain
Yeah.
cannot contain itself when it comes to Monza.
It's okay, I love Monza too. Max Verstappen finished P2, Charles Leclerc up on the podium in P3, Oscar Piastri P4, another great weekend for McLaren. Also a great weekend, I will say, for Red Bull. Although Max got P2 and didn't win, but Sergio Perez was in the points. Congratulations, Sergio Perez.
Wow.
It's the small things in life. That's his 3rd point finish in a row. So his season's
God.
getting better. Surprisingly, right? In my head, Sergio Perez had an awful season, right? Like that's like what everyone's thinking.
We all have that in our head.
Okay.
He's not awful qualifyings.
Like yeah, his
I think he's had an awful season for a Red Bull.
I think he's had an awful season in qualifying because he's finished P2, P2, P5, P2, P3, P4, P8, 2 retirements, P8, P7, 17th, P7, P7, P6.
That's quite
It's
awful.
all the worst.
It's not the worst.
It's
Like,
a lot of
My
weird
thing
things.
is that
Best a number 2 Red Bull can do.
I've seen quite a few tweets from Pierre Gasly fans, and they're like, at this point in the season, Pierre Gasly had more points than Sergio Perez did when he got dropped.
yeah.
And it's like, but he wasn't good enough, so he got dropped down. But Perez, they've extended his contract.
Yeah, I
I
think
think also Red Bull are realising that.
this is the main problem, is that because we're so used to Red Bull dropping drivers for much less, it's like clearly Sergio's having a bad season. I wouldn't say it's horrific. The man is on 139 points. Could be a lot worse. Pretty bad when his teammates on 295, but not the be-all of end-all. Fernando Alonso rounded out the points in P10. The Mercedes finished P7 and P8. Great little drive there from Lewis Hamilton to get up to P8. Don't know what went wrong with George Russell's car, but it's what it is.
Pit stop as well was slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and we didn't discuss that Williams had an illegal car. How?
Disqualification.
Yeah, Alex Albon got disqualified from qualifying. For
Oh
having an
yeah,
illegal car.
that was sad.
And then
Yeah.
they just shaved some bit off the floor with some sandpaper, and it was legal again.
Yep. Welcome to F1.
Yeah, no, they literally just sandpapered the bit that was making
That's-
the floor too wide, and then went on their way.
Yep.
No, yeah.
That's so frustrating.
They said that their measurements made it within the limit, like just made it within the limit, and the FIA were like, yeah, no. And obviously the FIA and the technical delegate measure it as something you can't complain.
Yeah.
Yeah, had that issue in Spa, we did. Yeah, so you just sandpapered it and it was done.
Frustrating.
Yep, Nico Hulkenberg just missed out on points as well.
Good. I mean, oh no. Destroyed by Tech Pro.
How was your weekend, Celeste?
It was good.
Track marshalling?
One big party again. To be honest, I love F1 for the atmosphere, but as a marshal, it absolutely sucks because, like you say, it's boring. I've waved less flags than I normally do. I don't get to recover as much cars. Well, I don't get to recover cars, basically. So, for the atmosphere, and I don't want to, sound as complaining, but because I feel very privileged doing this, and I'm very lucky to be in that position. And like I said, for the atmosphere, it's an absolutely insane weekend. So, yeah, really, really enjoyed it.
You did get to go on track with your bro.
Sure.
You have a little dance with your bro.
Well, yeah, because we have to. After each session, we have to go out and show the FIA that we're cleaning the track, even if there's nothing on track. We still need to show the FIA that we're cleaning the track.
With your shoe and you're like, I'm cleaning.
Yep, yeah.
Our job now.
Yeah, it's that's the thing with F1. Like I said, I feel very privileged, and it's insane how close we get to the cars to drivers, and I would never ever take that for granted. But if you just look at the marshal perspective, it's a lot of waiting around because you don't have as much session, especially on the Sunday. It's only 3 races. Now obviously we had 4, but it's only 3 races. You don't get to do a lot because you're not allowed to do a lot. So in that regard it's a bit boring, but then this atmosphere, the people, the whole circus around it makes up for it. So
yeah, because I'm guessing
I would like to go to the Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm guessing as well when you're marshalling, you don't actually really get to watch the race because you're more on high alert for making sure that nothing's happening, trying to listen in if anything's gonna happen.
Yeah, you're only allowed to watch one side of the track. So if I'm on the yellow flag, I'm only watching my part of the track where I have to put the yellow flag out, and the other side you only there for the blue flag, so only the cars coming at you, and that's the only thing you see, the cars coming or the cars going into your track.
That was the one
the only thing you see.
At Brands Hatch when I did it. He was like, right, you got to put your back to the cars, and I was like, sorry. He was like, you need to watch them coming out of the corner. He was like, so you got to have your back to them so you don't predict an incident that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The sound of them coming up behind you, it shits you up. You're like, oh, that's going to come at me.
That's also why people do need to understand that marshals are there. I know we have a lot of fun dancing and shit, but we can also get a lot of shit on TikTok for people saying we're not doing our job. But as a marshal, you need to be so focused and so well aware of why you're there. Because I've recently had a crash where I wasn't facing the car, like Katie said. I was on the yellow flag, and you probably seen a video because it was the British F4, and the cars went by and there was so much carbon fiber flying around. It was close to how Logan Sargent crashed, and the guy opposite to me, he said you have to go down now. It obviously all happened very quickly, but if he wasn't paying attention, if he wasn't focused, I probably would have had my whole face carbon fiber, and it could have ended really badly. So that's why you have to be really focused and also need to know why you're there and why you're doing it, because for safety, and not just I get to watch an F1 race, because you don't get to watch the F1 race, you're there for the safety.
With the Logan Sargent incident, I mean, I was going to message. Was it, the first contact into the wall he had, was there a marshal post right there?
He was just after the marshal post, just after.
Because I saw the orange and I was like, I can't tell.
No, just after. So
see, for me personally,
even in an instant like that, it's huge.
Yeah. See, for me personally, I love seeing the fact that the Dutch marshals have so much fun when they're in a position where they can have fun, because I think people forget that you are just volunteers. You're not paid workers to be there, and everyone's safety is at your hands. So I think it's good that when there's nothing on track, there's nothing going on, you don't have to be on this constant high alert 24/7. You're having fun. You're enjoying yourselves. You're enjoying the atmosphere. I think it's just wholesome to see and just nice to witness, because without a doubt and without fail, like, the Dutch marshals, one, are the most entertaining marshals, but two, are always the ones that are always on it. Like, the first to get to everything, the first to, you know, you clean up everything so quickly. Like, any yellow flags, red flags are, like, sorted so quickly because of your speed and your efficiency, and you're still able to have fun while doing it. And one thing I've seen a lot of as well is, because obviously everyone just sees the fun side of, like, the Dutch marshals, that everyone's like, I want to be a marshal, I want to be a marshal, I want to be a marshal. And it's like, do you understand what being a marshal is? Like, I make jokes to Celeste every now and then. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a marshal, so I get to do all the fun stuff. But, like, I don't mean it, because I know for a fact I would be a terrible marshal, because I do not have the attention span for it. And I would not be able to register what's going on quick enough. I also have hypermobility, and I think waving a flag for longer than 5 seconds would probably disintegrate my joints, and that would just be a big issue. But I think a lot of people nowadays don't realise what marshals do, the extent that marshals go to. Like, you're privileged in the sense that at the end of a day marshalling, you get to go home to your nice cozy bed and get a good night's sleep. I was with our friend Josh, who was a marshal, and he travelled across the ZANDVOORT to go do it, and, you know, marshal there, because you don't have to be a marshal at ZANDVOORT to marshal at ZANDVOORT. You can, like, you're just a marshal, you can go wherever you want, permitting you have the qualifications to do F1. And he obviously didn't have the privilege of going to a nice warm bed, because a lot of the time marshals camp, and it's
basically all the time. Like, I'm in a very rare position where I'm so close to the track that I'm marshal, but I think I can safely say 99% of the marshals camp.
Yeah, and he got to his tent the same as everyone else would have been camping at ZANDVOORT, and his tent was flooded by the end of the day, and he had to go home, go to his tent, go to sleep, and was up again at 5 o'clock in the morning to be at track. Like, they're long days, long hours. You get to see the fun side of things that marshals do. And that's not me discouraging anyone from being a marshal. I think if you want to be a marshal, go and be a marshal, because they are some of the most important and most vital part of a race weekend is being a marshal. All I'm saying is, don't go into it with your expectations being, I'm going to have fun and dance the whole time, because you're not. And also don't go into it going, I'm going to be an F1 marshal, because there is
no such thing as being an F1 marshal. There's no such thing. Point blank. There's no such thing. Like, I get that a lot of people feel like that's a thing, but every track has their own marshals. So if we go to Monza now, 99% are Italian Monza track marshals. And then, like we had in ZANDVOORT, you obviously have, like, guest marshals that travel the world. But to have your license and shit, you need to do certain things, you need to have a certain amount of days, and unless you're very rich, you can't just be an F1 marshal, because that's, like, we don't get paid for it, we don't get anything for it. So having
is half marshal, guys. Like, this is
having
speaking to people.
So I'm not a rookie marshal, but I'm an accredited marshal. I'm not a grade 1, so I can't do F1. I have to do 15 race days. So if I do, like, a Saturday and Sunday, that counts as 2 race days. But if I have to do 15 of those, 5 has to be on flags, and I have to wave the flag at some point in the session, like in a day, and another 5 like incident, like they just like track, but it's like incident. If you have no incident during the day, like you don't recover a car once, you don't touch a car once, you don't get that signature. So then that's another day you have to do. So then you have 5 that you can do a choice. So like I like doing the recovery, but I prefer doing flag. So I'd have to do 5 extra of flag. Like, well, I choose to do 5 extra of flag. And that's only if you want to be out on the track, not if you want to do pit lane and things like that. But so now it's sort of like you've got a year to go through before you can even think about taking the grade.
Yeah. Same for us. There's like, for every track you go to, there's different rules, but in the basis they're all the same. Like, you need to have a certain amount of experience, but don't think that you can like sign up halfway through the summer being a marshal and then, oh, here I'm at the F1 and I'm being an F1 marshal, because that's not how it works. You do need to have like the experience and the dedication. And like I said, for me as a marshal, F1 is probably one of the most boring things to do, because we're just not allowed to do a lot of stuff. So like, if we have the national races, if a car goes off, we run and we go, because that's what people often say, like with Carlos Sainz's car being on fire in Austria, but also now Logan's car being on fire, everyone's like, why is there no marshals? Why is there no one on track helping it? Because we can't. We're not allowed to go on track until there is either a safety car or a red flag, until race control tells us, yes, you can go on track. So, yeah, that's the thing.
F1 cars also have internal fire extinguishers for that exact.
Yeah, also, that's very true. If you're thinking about becoming a marshal, absolutely do it. It's fucking incredible. It's amazing, but do know that there isn't just F1.
So last thing on the marshal post thing before we just go on to like Naomi being able to scream about Monza being across the weekend, as well. Like, everyone always is like, oh my god, I love the Dutch marshals. Like, I want to do it because it's fun and everything like that. If you are from a country that isn't the Netherlands, and if you at your own circuit, so you got a local circuit, you go through everything to be able to be marshal at an F1 race, please as well note that they will not pay for anything. Like, you get from what I was speaking to Josh about, you get a camp spot to set up your tent, and sometimes, depending on whatever event you are doing, you'll get a little bit of food throughout the day. Apart from that, you need to pay for your own travel. Say you're in the UK, you'd need to pay for your travel to the Netherlands, all of your camping gear, everything like that. You'd then need to pay for your food, all of your drinks, and then pay for your transport and everything home. Nothing gets paid. That's something you'd have to be willing to pay out of your own pocket, and you will not get paid for what you're doing. Like, that's just like the sadly the harsh truth of marshalling. But it's very rewarding. I'm assuming a very rewarding, very great thing to do, and marshals are very, very widely respected, but it does come at a cost. Quite literally comes at a cost.
Yeah, it's not like a job, it's like a hobby. Like, how we describe it, same as people that like to go fishing, they put a lot of money in like their fishing gear and shit like that, and they put a lot of time in actually going somewhere to fish. Like a hobby you have, that's the same with marshalling. You put in a lot of money in your shoes, your overalls, like everything you need, like a tent and transport and shit like that, and then you put in a lot of time to do what you actually like. So it's not like, marshalling isn't like a job, it's like a hobby, and you really need to love doing the marshal bit to be able to like do that. And like I said, if you do, go do it, because it's absolutely great. If you love doing that, you can literally travel around the world, go to amazing tracks and be a marshal. It's absolutely great, but it does take away a lot of time and money. But if that's what you love doing, then why not? Yeah.
And marshalling isn't also the only thing you can do to be going to F1 races for free, because I think a lot of people want to go do marshalling because they get to go to F1 races for free. But there are loads of other things you can do to be going to F1 races for free. If you wanted to experience an F1 race and you just physically can't afford it, you can volunteer. You can be one of the like race makers. You can just do like everything at an F1 race is practically built off of volunteers.
Yes.
And yeah, you get up close and personal with things, and you do get to see a bit more for some roles. But if you do just want to go to an F1 race and you can't afford it, you can look into being volunteers. I know for Silverstone, for the British Grand Prix, if you want to be a volunteer for the F1 British Grand Prix, you can't do just F1. So if you want to do Silverstone, you have to sign up to do F1 and MotoGP at Silverstone. That is the requirement.
Which
You
is
have to
amazing, by the way.
You have to do both of them, and you can sign up for other track days and other series at Silverstone as well to volunteer, but you do have to do F1 and MotoGP. But all you got to do is go on to the circuit's website for whichever circuit you kind of want to attend and work at, and all the information's on there. You can apply, and yeah, like I said, things like F1 run off of volunteers. That's both marshals and people running the events behind the scenes, which is why you should always be kind, because the person you're probably yelling at is probably just a 21-year-old girl who is not getting paid and is just there, you know, for fun, like you are.
Yeah. Like almost everyone you see on track are volunteers, unless they're wearing FIA kits or team kits. All of the rest of them, hospitality, grandstand people, media people, they're all volunteers. So
the software crashed midway through a very important conversation there. So
I'm so disappointed. I had such a brainy moment, and now you will never ever be able to hear my braininess.
we'll come back to it. Maybe we make a
I'm joking.
we'll come back to it in a proper video. I feel like we need to do like a proper video on like marshals and marshalling and like everything behind marshals.
We can do like a little question sticker on the Instagram, see what people want to know and do.
Yeah, we can make like a mini like, what's it called, 30-minute documentary style piece thing on marshals. You can take me to ZANDVOORT with you. We can take the camera and we can like
don't get Alice marshalling.
Film you going.
I was gonna say we'll get you
stuff.
media. Yeah, we'll get you media, and I will do a working day, and then you can film me because I'm not allowed to film while I'm working.
Yeah. That'd be incredible. I think all we got left to cover is the thing Naomi wanted to scream about earlier.
I love it. I really love it.
I do have to say Ponto is one of my absolute favourite tracks I've ever had the privilege of visiting.
I would kill to go, especially for
once a week, baby.
And I think because it's so special, I know, like, I was going to say, like, each of us, like, really have a driver that we're able to... Okay, maybe other than Alice, whatever. Alice has not had the joy of Monza. But
she just ruined Monza.
We're able to at least... It's been one of those venues where usually it's like, oh, it's like a first, or it's like it's a comeback, or... It's just an amazing moment for obviously a lot of Ferrari drivers, Italian drivers, and just to have those such amazing moments at one track that's able to basically hold them, and the podium is just the most incredible thing ever.
That's my thing. It's like if I think of F1, like an F1 podium that's iconic, it's the Monza podium with the confetti and everything. That's just
we've been on.
Like I know I'm always biased with Pierre Gasly, but my favourite photo of Pierre Gasly is him sat on the podium looking at the trophy with the confetti falling down. Like it's brilliant. Like,
so good.
No,
it's still my computer lock screen.
Being on the track underneath the Monza podium was like an experience that's been second to none. And we've been on the track at Le Mans. After the race is done.
That Monza podium.
But that Monza podium was... I'm not even a Ferrari fan, especially when it comes to WEC. But my God, what an experience it was being surrounded by the Tifosi. Ferrari didn't even win the race.
No, they came third.
They were second, I think. Was it not?
Oh, yeah. I know they didn't win it.
I think we came third. Oh, the other Toyota came third. I'm pretty sure you came second, I think. But like the Tifosi really go all out, and it's just a phenomenal
that's what makes
atmosphere.
Monza so special.
Yeah, it's the dedication. I like everyone always says like ZANDVOORT has the best fans, but
Monza has the passion.
Monza has the best fans. They are so passionate.
Yes.
And
it's
obviously
just the absolute love.
It might be different in WEC than it is to F1, but I never once had an issue with a Ferrari fan while at Monza, you know, when I was decked out in Porsche merch. Never once had an issue at all. They were always so friendly, so lovely, just so wonderful, and like I think it really adds to the atmosphere. It might obviously be slightly different in F1, but I think Monza will always hold like such a special place in my heart. That was the first ever racetrack I actually stepped foot onto.
Yeah, I feel like Monza and Ferrari and like the whole thing about that is, it is so based on the sport. Like I feel like Monza is iconic, Ferrari is iconic. Like Ferrari has done pretty shit in the past years for a top team. Like we haven't won anything in, I don't know, God, house though. Kimi Raikkonen in 2007 even. But the, like you say, the passion.
Sorry, did you see Kimi in 27?
Yeah, no, 2007.
I called it.
Here we go. Shit. No, but like, yeah, both Monza, like people are there for the racing, and like obviously they're Ferrari fans, but they love the racing, and they will always love the racing and the history.
That's
and
my favourite thing.
like I think
in the
that is
world.
why for us, like even for a non-Ferrari fan, I think it's still so special, because you just see the passion and the love for the sport itself, and not particularly for like one driver or one team, or only when a driver does good. It's just, yeah, it's incredible.
To me,
I also thoroughly enjoyed walking through a forest at a racetrack.
It's like a park.
Like,
a forest
the
park.
only issue is that I really hope to God Monza have got that singular grandstand fixed. They have a grandstand, okay, and this grandstand does not have a shelter, and the seats are metal.
It's in the full
There is
sun
nothing
the
on top of
entire
it.
day.
It is metal.
You cannot touch it.
We
for
tried to sit on it for 2
millisecond.
seconds and immediately jumped
No.
up because oh my god, does that burn? So I really hope to
Burn.
God they've fixed that, because that was hell. We were like, why is this grandstand so empty? It's got such a great view here, and then tried to sit down and was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, I think, like for me, especially when I was doing like my A levels, and even even in uni, my topic I had for my photography was emotions in sport. I chose that because of things like Monza, where you don't like, you just look at it and it makes you feel like so, I don't even know what it is, that I wish there was a word for it, and you just look at it, you see the passion that these people have for something you all love, and it makes you, it's almost like it's like a hug in a feeling, like safeness in a feeling, is looking at the podium celebrations, no matter, even if Ferrari are up there, even if they're not, because there have been times, but you still see the passion and the love, and that's what you really call a fan base, a true supporter, is loving your team no matter what, but always being there, always being present, always having their back. And I think that's a really special part of Monza.
like, I always take the piss out of Celeste, but it's always in a friendly and loving manner. But Ferrari single-handedly have the most dedicated fans in the entire world, and I think it really just shows
That is a Ferrari fan.
Yeah. Like, whether they are like full-blown like Tifosi, or whether they just like respect Ferrari in general, like, it's some of the most dedicated like people ever. Like, they'll ride or die for that team. They don't care who comes and who goes, they will ride or die for that little red car, even if they do have ugly black race overalls for some obscure reason in Monza.
Are nice.
Ugly?
Oh,
Ugly?
The race overalls are ugly.
Mate, they're like a fucking chessboard.
Okay.
Sorry, it's
Okay.
carbon fiber.
Like
I've seen the
shirt.
merch. The merch is cool.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah,
shirts,
the merch is cool.
great.
The race suit.
The suits, no.
See,
I get that. Hold on.
I think it's been funny because I've always been a McLaren girl because my dad was a McLaren fan, is a McLaren fan.
Oh, yeah, see, exactly. I told you, and you tried to defend them. You tried to defend them momentarily.
What?
No,
it was
just
all the
stupid
suits.
thing.
Oh, it's so bad.
Okay.
So
But yeah, but if you're from the UK, you'll know a TV show called Rory the Racing Car. Rory the Racing
Ferrari
Car
fan.
was a little red Formula car, right? Little cartoon thing. So even though I've always been like a McLaren fan, I remember watching the F1 and going, oh, it's Rory. And my dad was like, no, that's Ferrari. And I'm like, that's Rory. That's the one.
Even in Cars, like the film,
Yeah.
It's rad.
the the Formula car, the single seater, the slicks and wings, is. I mean, they may decline it, but it's a Ferrari car. It's got the Italian flag on it.
Yeah.
It's a Ferrari.
Yeah. Enzo, there's this famous quote, Enzo Ferrari once said, ask a child to draw a car and they will draw it red.
We literally, at the dinner table, we had this conversation. I said, no matter what, they will always draw red.
Yeah.
Because the red car go fast.
I mean, obviously Ferrari
Sometimes it goes slow, but it go fast.
The team that has been in F1 for the entirety of the
Sometimes
sport.
it go on fire.
My mum always pushed when I was younger for me to be a Ferrari fan, and she was disappointed to find out I was not a Ferrari fan. But, however, talking about the passion at Monza, we could have a very, very passionate Sunday this Sunday, because Formula 1 is joined by Formula 2 and Formula 3, and if you did not know, it is the Formula 3 season finale this weekend, which means we're going to have a winner crowned, and the top spot and second in the championship right now have 1 point between them, and both drivers are Italian.
I'm gonna miss this championship.
So, if one of the top two, there were 7 contenders for the championship this weekend. There is no longer 7 drivers for the championship contention this weekend. I know when we posted the Instagram post, we said there was 7. There was 7. As of recording this right now, there is only 6 drivers in contention. That was not my fault, okay? I promise. For anyone who isn't aware, obviously Franco Colapinto is no longer racing in F2, so they have put Oliver Goethe in the F2 seat in MP Motorsport, and he was in contention for the F3 championship, so he will no longer be competing in that championship this weekend, as he makes the move up to F2 for this race, the remainder of the season. There isn't really much been said on that. It sounds like it is for the season, from like
Makes sense considering the championship is finishing.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is still obviously 6 drivers in contention, and technically any of them could take. But Leonardo Fornaroli and Gabriele Mini are the top 2 in the championship right now, both Italian, and they could win the championship on home soil. And if Leonardo Fornaroli manages to win this championship without winning a race, he will have gone his entire Formula 3 career without winning a single race.
The thing is that I'm glad he's got his like big break, but like that's kind of insane.
Yeah, he is P1 in the championship in his second year in Formula 3 and has 0 race wins. And all he has to do Saturday and Sunday is beat Gabriele Mini. He could finish second in both races, like Leonardo Fornaroli, and Gabriele Mini could finish P3 in both races, and Leonardo Fornaroli would still win the championship, and he could then win it with no wins, which is wild. It is. Consistency is key.
For him. I was going to say consistency is key.
Yeah, and then Formula 2 is just back for another race. Isaac Kajara is still leading the championship. There is actually lots more occurring this weekend apart from F1, F2 and F3. We're not going into it that much. I just have to establish.
I'm so tired. I want to go to bed.
No, tell him. The greatest thing of all is back.
The World Endurance Championship returns. Whack. We are going to America for the Lone Star Le Mans. It is a 6-hour race.
I despise the name of this race.
Yeah, I don't like Lone Star.
I just despise it.
Like, why do we just...
The Americans are like, we want it.
Yeah, no.
Get your own thing.
There is 2 races left of the season after the Lone Star Le Mans. We're also in America, just up north, in Milwaukee for IndyCar, and MotoGP, Moto2 and Moto3 are in Aragon. Aragon. That's what I said.
Aragon.
That's what I said. Thank you guys for watching the Parc'd podcast by Parc'd Femme. We will be back next week, I believe it is, because there is a lot to cover. So if we don't do it next week, we are in for...
Time.
Huh?
I don't have time. I was going to say I have time to do it next week, but I was like, wait, actually, I may not. But either way, I'm sure you guys will do it without me.
Yeah, so much better without Naomi here. Anyway,
Yeah,
if you enjoy, if you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you follow all of our social medias. They are at parkfm_ on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can follow our website. It's parkfm.co.uk. And I think that's everything. So, ciao bella.
Ciao, Bella.
Ciao bella.